The haunted house on Halloween is a classic horror trope that has been used in movies, books, and stories for decades. The idea of a place that is cursed, where evil lurks in the shadows, and where people disappear without a trace, is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. But why do we love to be scared? Why do we seek out horror stories and haunted houses, especially on Halloween night? One theory is that fear is a natural response that has evolved over millions of years to help us survive. When we encounter a dangerous situation, our brains go into fight or flight mode, releasing adrenaline and preparing us to respond to the threat. Horror stories and haunted houses tap into this primal fear, giving us a safe way to experience the rush of adrenaline without actually being in danger. Another theory is that we enjoy horror stories because they allow us to confront our own fears and anxieties in a controlled environment. By watching or reading about scary situations, we can explore our own fears and emotions and learn how to cope with them. But whatever the reason, there's no denying that the haunted house on Halloween has become a staple of our culture. Whether it's a cheesy haunted attraction at a theme park or a genuinely terrifying abandoned house in the woods, the idea of being scared out of our wits on Halloween night is one that we can't resist. And who knows, maybe one day you'll find yourself standing in front of a dark, creepy house, wondering if the rumors are true. Will you have the courage to step inside? Or will you turn and run, never to return again? This is the haunted house on Halloween. It was a Halloween night, and the streets were alive and the sound of laughter and screams. But in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of town, there was a house that had been abandoned for years. It was said that the house was haunted and that anyone who entered it would never come out alive. A group of teenagers had heard the rumors and they decided to explore the house. They walked up to the front door, their hearts racing with excitement and fear. One of them pushed the door open and they stepped inside. The house was dark and musty, and the floorboards creaked with every step. As they explored the rooms, they found old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs. But as they moved deeper into the house, they started to hear strange noises. At first, it was just a faint whisper, barely audible above the sound of their own breathing. But then, the whisper turned into a voice that seemed to be coming from the shadows. Get out. Get out. The voice whispered, sending chills down their spines. The teenagers looked at each other, unsure of what to do. But then, they heard footsteps coming from upstairs. They slowly made their way up, and as they reached the top of the stairs, they saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a woman, dressed in a long white gown. Her face was pale, and her eyes glowed in the darkness. She stared at them, and they could feel her cold, dead gaze upon them. The teenagers tried to run, but the woman blocked their path. They were trapped, and they knew that they were not alone in the house. As they stood there, frozen in fear, they heard the sound of more footsteps coming from downstairs. And then they saw them. Shadows moving in the darkness, the sound of scratching and growling filling the air. The teenagers realized that they had walked into a trap and that they were about to face an evil presence that they could never have imagined. They fought for their lives, but the evil was too powerful. They could feel it draining their energy, their very souls. They heard blood-curdling screams and the sound of bones snapping as the evil presence consumed them one by one. In the end, only one teenager survived, but he was never the same again. He was haunted by the memories of that night, the darkness and the terror that had consumed his friends. As the years passed, the abandoned house became a legend, a story that parents told their children to scare them on Halloween night. But for those who had been there, it was a nightmare that they could never forget. Long after the house was torn down, the evil presence remained lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. And on Halloween night, its power grew, drawing in the unsuspecting and the foolish. Those who dared to enter the darkness without knowing what they were truly facing.